Jamie Knight, Glenn Suitor, and the Premier of the province of Saskatchewan. Premier Brad Wall with us as it is time here on a Wednesday for Premier's Picks. And we'll start off, Premier, with, I imagine, a big thank you, shout-out to Glenn for last week.
Absolutely.
4-0.
Absolutely.
4-0, the Premier goes.
And I would not have picked BC. I probably wouldn't have, but I couldn't go again. I mean, he does this, Glenn. You do this for a living, so I had to defer.
Well, hey, you know what? You were doing very well without me. So I think, as you guys know, I don't like to do picks. So there's a reason. There's a few reasons for that, but it's very tough. So you're on a roll anyway. You didn't need me anyway.
So, I was watching with my son, and I said I had picked BC. And he said, "Really?" I said, "Well, technically, no. Glenn Suitor did, but I'm kind of happy about that right now." So yes, I say thank you, 27.
Because when Glenn was making the picks, I wrote down Calgary because Glenn started with I'm finding my inner, Premier Wall here, and I'm like, well, he always goes with Calgary. And then I scratched it out when he said BC, and you called just in time to make the Toronto pick over Edmonton, which, wasn't really that difficult.
No, yeah, I kind of walked in at the end when it was a little bit easier. But
you were kind of humming and hawing over the BC pick, but now
like
4-0.
Well, I like it, obviously, to go 4-0, even though the last one wasn't mine. It was Glenn's. That's good. That's great. It adds to the record. That's also good. But better than all of that is that, it puts Gary in a bigger hole. That's the best part of all this.
Gary the King Nickel went with Calgary. He was 3-1. So now the Gnome has dropped. Gary's getting a little bit of a run going here as he's back to 500. Gary's 14-14, as is the Gnome. So 14 right, 14 wrong, but the Premier's 28 is your record. 20-8.
Wow.
This is the best year I've had, and it's the first year that we've had Glenn on for Premier's pick. So I'm not sure if that's a coincidence or not, or I think it's a lot of good luck, but it's fun so far.
Here's the stat, Premier, I'll throw out, and you may disagree, but the last couple of years, the Riders were definitely not 6-1 in Premier's picks when you go with Saskatchewan every week.
Full disclosure, you're right. It might be that. Although last year the first few weeks, obviously they were 3-0. Were they not? Was it
3-0
last year?
It was 3-0. They finished 8-10. They had the 5-game losing streak, which dropped you back a little bit.
Tried to forget all of that.
Yeah, and then the 4-game losing streak a little later on.
Right. Yeah, we should stop talking about that now.
So let's the Riders get a little credit. Glenn gets a tiny amount of credit, but the Premier, you do have to pick 3 other ones. But the only person so far to go perfect on Premier's picks this year is the Premier of New Brunswick, who went 4-0 when you guys were all together in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
If there was any doubt that the CFL should move there next, it's plus he's a Riders fan. It's all gone because that province, if the Premier's evidence, that province understands and knows football.
Absolutely. As Premier, let's talk a little bit about the Rider game last week, if we must. They won. That's the positive.
I listened to the call on the radio. I have this old car. I was in the local car show in Swift Current. It was the most interesting version of the car show. It's my first year in it, but I go to it quite a bit. And there was a lot of people milling around looking at cars, but there seemed to be a disproportionate number of people sitting by their cars with the radios on. Anyway, listen to the very, very end of the game. And it was just one of those cardiac moments, but it ended very, very well.
So are you a car guy, Premier Wall? What was your first car?
My first car was a 66 Charger. I got it off my brother. Nice car, that split buckets to the back, trapdoor to the trunk, good for driving, when you're in high school and you guys don't have a lot of money. I had a 73 Challenger for a while. I had a 66 Galaxy. I love them. And so now I have a 67 Coronet that I've been working on for a number of years. Tammy lets me do that. And I had it in the show this year for the first time. It's a great show that the Eliminators Car Club puts on in Swift Current. But yeah, there was a lot of listening to the Rider game and less looking at other cars at this particular show. 106 entries, and still people were they'd go to someone's car and have a look at it, and the radio would be on, and the first question was not what year it is or what engine it is. What's the score? Or is it still 8-7? I think that was the number one question.
Glenn, what was your first car?
A little Toyota Corolla that my girlfriend's dad built and was barely able to move around, but I had to buy it myself. and I think it was $600, and that was a lot of money for me at the time.
I had a 68 Beaumont, which
I had
was my mom's
a
car.
68 Beaumont.
Which was my mom's car, and then my brother owned my older brothers, and then here's my
Was it a two-door hardtop?
No, it was a 4-door. It was a 4-door.
The family Beaumont.
Yes, it was a family Beaumont, and that thing was built steel. So Premier and Glenn, here's my stupid teenager not knowing, metric system and all that other stuff. The first time I drove it with my mom with the learner's license, I was going 100 miles an hour. I was thinking it was in kilometers because the Beaumont was in miles per hour. So I am flying down the highway at 100 miles an hour going, it feels like I'm going kind of fast. And my mom leans over and goes, "What are you doing?"
That's a great story.
So I was just a little bit over the speed limit because I thought it was in kilometers an hour, but nope.
The Beaumont would have been just like a nice, smooth sailing boat over those roads, though, at that speed, I bet.
And it was like a 320 in there too. It was
probably a 327.
Premier Wall, I look over and Gary's not here this week. I don't know. We don't know where Gary is. We can't find him.
No worries. I'll make Gary's picks for him.
I have a coin. Gary gets the coin flip this week on Premier's picks. So Premier Wall, Hamilton at Winnipeg. BC at Montreal. I'm reading last week's. BC at Montreal.
The Lions.
Going with BC. Let's flip the coin. Heads is home team. Tails is away team. He gets the Montreal Alouettes. It says heads. Calgary at Toronto.
Stamps are going to come back.
So Calgary.
Cornish is doubtful?
Yes, he is doubtful.
Okay. Yeah, Stamps.
Gary gets the Calgary Stampeders as well because it's tails. They're the away team. Winnipeg at Hamilton.
Who's the running back that played for the Dinos, Glenn? That's their back. Is it Matt? He's pretty good if Cornish
Matt
is.
Walker. Or Walter.
Yeah, Walter.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. Yeah, no, I'll go with the Stamps.
Winnipeg at Hamilton.
Yeah, I think it's the Tiger Cats.
Max Hall,
the starter. Right, Max Hall's the starter. Yeah.
Gary gets Hamilton as well as Heads is the home team, and Saskatchewan, full disclosure, at the Edmonton Eskimos. But what's the score differential there?
I think we're going to win by 10.
10 points. I'll put it in brackets. Okay. Finally, let's see what Gary gets. Heads or tails as I throw it off the desk. He gets the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Oh.
Lucky guy. Premier Wall, we'll talk to you next week.
One final quick thing. There's a picture going around the internet of me on the ground after dropping a pass, and Tyron Breckenridge celebrating above me. I sent out the picture because I want people to know that, this is why you got Defensive Player of the Week. But what's missing in the picture is the pass interference that happened just before that. And I promised Tyron that I would clear this matter up on a province-wide radio show, so thanks for letting me do that. PI, also Weldon Brown, played a little bit. This was at our golf tournament, played a little bit, and I wasn't able to catch anything, neither were anyone else he was covering. Again, we're pretty sure it was PI.
There was no flags in that picture I saw on Twitter.
I was laying on the flag.
Well, next week we'll talk about Gene Mikowski taking out most of the ministers at the football game as well. Premier, thanks for your time.
Thanks, fellas. Take care.
Premier Wall on Premier's Picks